I'm Arya Schwartz, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. We are back with WNBA Stocks, where Owen Pence and myself check the market in the WNBA. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. You're looking to get tickets for the upcoming, or I guess the current WNBA season. Thanks to our sponsor, TickPick, you don't have to worry. The original no-fee ticketing site and official ticketing partner of the WNBA champion, Chicago Sky. Use the link tickpick.com/Winsidr. That's tickpick.com/Winsidr for all your upcoming ticket purchases for the WNBA, NFL, NBA, or any other event in your local market. Owen, we're back with WNBA Stocks, where we check the pulse on the WNBA market, where the teams, who's going up, who's going down. We also got to do our stock watch, which has become a fan favorite. I know both you and I are getting a little bit of the allergy bug right now, so listeners, excuse our weird noise voices or nasally voices or whatever it is. But you know what? Stocks don't stop because you got a runny nose. How you doing? And should we start with up or down this week?
I say I'm doing well. I'm congested. You can likely hear it. But we're pushing through. I say we start with stock up, right? I mean, the allergies have us a little down, so let's balance things out here.
All right, cool. You know what? I'll go first. You know what? No, Owen. I think last week I went first, so this week you go first. Who's your
Boom.
stock up team?
Let's do it. My stock up team is, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that this is the only team we haven't featured yet in WNBA stocks. We've got week 4 here, so we're making it all the way around. My stock up is the Indiana Fever, a team I'm extremely excited to talk about this week. Arguably the biggest news in the I'm not going to say arguably because a lot is going on. There's a lot happening in the W, but isn't that always the case? But one of the biggest stories of the past week since we last spoke was Marianne Stanley, head coach of the Indiana Fever, no longer, currently replaced by interim Carlos Knox. Stanley came in a few years ago, began her tenure with Indiana in the bubble, and it's been a weird few years for Indiana. Like, we all know they're kind of like the punching bag along with Dallas of the league. That there's more jokes made about the Fever than anyone else over the last 5 seasons. They have the longest active playoff drought. But enough with the negatives, because the vibes are too good with this team right now. And I think that kind of the last maybe piece of the puzzle to really start to turn things around and feel like, okay, we're ushering in a new era here, was to make a coaching change. This was a team that just really had an incredible draft. So Tamika Catching, who's obviously legend, Hall of Famer, champion, was not the best general manager for this team. And that's putting it kindly. Lynn Dunn came in this offseason and really had an incredible draft. I mean, I would say that Lexi Hall at 6 overall was like one of the biggest head scratchers for everyone. But, and the jury's still out on that one. But you look at the rest of her selections, I mean, they got 4 players who are real WNBA players, like starters, rotation players, really impactful players. To get 4 in the same draft when you're in a stage as a franchise where it just feels like you're treading water and you're not winning games, but you also don't have enough youthful energy to come in and not just draft 4 players who are immediately making an impact. And the 4 players, by the way, Nalissa Smith, 2nd overall, who's been out recently but just got healthy. Emily Engstler at 4, who's been really incredible. I tweeted out a stat the other day that Engstler's among the league leaders in total rebound percentage, like among Asia Wilson, Sylvia Fowles, Jonquel Jones. I mean, it's truly remarkable how impressive she's been on the boards. They got Queen Egbo at 10, who's been awesome, one of my favorite players to watch this year. And then obviously they got the steal of the draft, the national champion, Destiny Henderson, at 20. So this is a team that just, added 4 players, and that's without mentioning Lexi, who, could start to get comfortable with more shots and start to deliver. So I just think that the vibes are really good. I'm really intrigued to see what Carlos Knox brings to this club. I loved what I saw in his first game. And this team is just kind of rolling right now. A few quick stats here. I know I'm rambling. Kelsey Mitchell shooting 43% from 3-point land. Victoria Vivians on almost 5 threes a game is at 36%, which isn't a knock your socks off number, but just for her to be healthy and hitting shots is huge. This is a team that was had one of the lowest paces of play for years and years. They're second in the league in pace right now. So they're running up and down, and it just fits with the whole ethos of this team right now, which is energy and kind of vibrant youth all around. Talking to the team when they came into New York and won earlier in the season when Stanley was still the head coach, it was very evident how good the vibes were. Everyone was just like, man, these are such fun young players. The vets were just so enthused by the energy that the rookies were bringing. And that stuff is really infectious, and it's huge for a team that's just had such a bummer of the last, handful of years. So Indiana does not have to be winning games, and I don't think they really want to be winning games for their stock to be up. They just have to have these young guys playing and playing a lot and getting reps, and that's what's happening right now, and it's really exciting to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're definitely a team that's found success, and it's not just decided by the win column, which I think is a huge change for this team. That, as you mentioned, I mean, I think you put it perfectly when you talked about, excuse me, how they were the laughing stock of this league, but that's no longer the case. They haven't gotten it completely turned around where they're, winning every game. They've had some really close games, some tough games. I mean, they lost by 5 to the defending champions, and they showed, with Nalissa Smith back in this lineup. We saw that against the Sparks when she was able to really put the team on her back at points in the game. Not only is this team growing culture wise, but they're making the right turn. They're turning the corner, as it were, in the play also.
Yeah.
And I think a huge underrated aspect is Gary Kloppenberg joining the coaching staff midseason. Klopp is somebody who is a proven winner throughout his history in this league, but also I think it's important to bring in, when you have a new coach, when you are kind of doing a reset mid-season. It's not a full reset. It's important to bring in new voices that have been part of winning culture that can kind of aid you along in that process. So I mean, look, it's a happy day if you're the Indiana Fever, not just because you beat the LA Sparks, but also because of how good of a game it was against the Chicago Sky. But then also on top of that, I think the Indiana Fever fan base, from the people I've spoken to and what I've seen online, very excited about the direction of this franchise. And I don't want to throw any shade, but let's just say they don't miss Marion Stanley
No.
right now. Let's talk about my up team, the Dallas Wings, a team that is going to be fluctuating, I think, throughout this season. We're going to see highs and lows. This team's 1-1 in their last 2 games, and 2-1 in the last 3. They beat the Lynx handedly. They showed why this team is a threat in this league, because right now Marina Mabrey is just shooting crazy, right? Like, the confidence is through the roof. She's playing as if she's been like a 5-time All-Star, been to the playoffs most of her career. That's just like, honestly, if you talk to me right now, the star of this team is her and not Arike. I mean, Arike's been having great games, but when Arike's been slowing down a little bit, it's been the other players stepping up. And I think what we're finally starting to see in this roster is kind of a cohesion with each other and understanding. Great teams have great players, yes, and role players. But the key is more so understanding when it's your turn to step up. And we're going to talk about this on my down team. Some teams, when you're struggling, they don't have that ability. Like one player starts to struggle, then the next one, the next one, the next one, and it's just this downhill spiral. And what we're seeing with the Dallas Wings is that flow of a good team and almost maybe even a great team, where when one player is struggling, somebody else steps up to the plate until that player, that superstar, Enrique, Satu, whoever it is, can get back in the rhythm. And then normally, yeah, when the shot clock's ticking down, you go to the superstar. But right now, this team has so many superstars.
No, I think you completely nailed it. And this is something I've been thinking a lot about early this season as well. It was something I was a little critical of regarding Vicki Johnson's first year as head coach of the Wings, which was that they have so much young talent, kind of like we're talking about Indiana does this season. But for the last couple years, Dallas has just been gathering draft picks and stockpiling them, and then just has all these players to the point where you've got, Chelsea Dungy, who's a top 5 pick who never even played and factored into their plans at all. They just have so many players. That something I was critical of Johnson last year was, that they don't really have a set rotation night to night. They don't know who is going to be getting the minutes. And I got to admit complete defeat on this one right now, because it's going in the complete opposite direction, where everyone is playing so hard for Vicki, and she's just pushing all the right buttons in terms of knowing who they need to provide that spark at the given moment, because they have so many capable players on this team. Third in offensive rating right now, third best offense in the league. And I think Marina Mabrey, as you mentioned, has been by far the most impactful offensive player right now. She's shooting over 52% from the field, which is just so impressive for a guard. Enrique, who, I think has really made some strides so far this year, she's still shooting 37% from the field. So that's still the biggest problem with her game, is that she's a chucker and a lot of the shots aren't falling. With Marina, it's like she's taking these shots and she's hitting them. And then the other player I really want to mention that I think might be the most important player for this team, and really has been for the past few years. You could make a case it's Izzy Harrison. I love Izzy Harrison. But for me, it's Alicia Gray. The fact that this team is hanging around the middle of the pack in defensive rating, to me, is almost more impressive than them being near the top in offense. This team needs to grind on defense. They need to limit opponents getting to the rim, getting open threes, getting to the foul line. And Alicia Gray is a one-person wrecking crew. She is unbelievable. Her ability to block shots as a guard, and not a particularly big one at that. Her speed, the way that she'll, get deflections and kind of turn defense, as cliche as it sounds, into offensive opportunities in transition. And then, of course, she's a dynamic offensive player as well, can knock down threes, can get to the rim. She's kind of holding this team together. So as much as Marina deserves all of the credit, and so many other players on this team who are contributing, I think without Alicia Gray, it's not feeling as good as it does right now for Dallas.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think everybody's really, putting, I don't even know what the term is. Everybody's putting in a little bit to make it a team effort. There's some saying there. There's something, whatever. Shameless plug. This week, on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, June 1st, June 2nd, and June 3rd, Winsidr, the whole Winsidr team, we're going to be hosting Playback. It's basically watch party for the WNBA. It takes 2 seconds to download the Playback program or sign into the program. The link is on our Twitter page, but if you want it, it is getplayback.com/room/Winsidr. And we'll be doing the Minnesota Lynx Atlanta Dream game at 7 p.m. on June 1st. The Connecticut Sun Las Vegas Aces game June 2nd at 10 p.m. Eastern for all the times. New York Liberty taking on the Washington Mystics June 3rd at 7 p.m. And again, it's a little watch party. It's a really cool system. Hop in for a few minutes, see if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you can leave, watch the game with the normal announcers. If not, hey, we're going to be having some cool guests, maybe do some giveaways. It's going to be a fun time, and you should definitely join. Now let's move on to our down teams. I'm going to go first. It's my hometown team. They just retired the GOAT Simone Augustus' jersey. Shout out to Simone Augustus, the greatest player of all time. Minnesota Lynx. They're losing, there's and I've put them on Stock Watch for a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about this before the episode. There's a few things, simple things that are frustrating me. On the player side, the thing that's frustrating me most, I would say, if you're a Lynx fan, if you're looking at this team, is the fact that they're missing free throws. Free throws have continued to hurt this team. Their free throw percentage, I don't have it exactly right in front of me right now, but which is a shame because I should have. But they're just not hitting free throws and they've lost multiple games missing free throws. And it's kind of ridiculous when when the Lynx are playing their best ball, they're attacking the paint, especially with the way Kayla McBride and Aerial Powers have been playing this season. Their shot has not been dropping consistently. They've been attacking the basket a lot and getting to the free throw line. You have Sylvia Fowles, one of the greatest of all times, getting to the free throw line, and they haven't been hitting them consistently, which I think has been a huge issue for this team. The other big issue is when teams struggle offensively, especially the Minnesota Lynx, who don't necessarily have that ability to go on like crazy hot streaks, so they drop, they go on like a 16-0 run, it really needs to come from their defense. They need to batten down the hatch defensively, and then, like we were talking about, attack the paint, get to the line, get easy. Because look, what's the best thing you can do, Owen, if you're a shooter and you haven't made a couple shots? Get to the line, get some free throws, get your shot back in rhythm, and then start in the flow of the game. And I haven't seen that. The other big question I have for this team is the rotations. We've seen Avina Westbrook start some games, but then play 6 minutes in another game. We've seen Milic, who with Achanwa out, and I believe it's like unclear. I think it was the Mexican League announced that Cunye was signing with the Lynx, but I haven't seen anything officially. But if that's true, then they have one more big on their roster. But still, I mean, like the amount of minutes that we've seen for Milic, considering how, in my mind, she's been productive. Yes, she's getting some foul trouble. But if you're asking me like a backup center or a backup four who you're trying to ease the load off Sill and Shepard, you can let them take a couple fouls. I mean, they got fouls to give. Yes, she plays a little bit overly physical. She's a little bit prone to get into foul trouble. But in my mind, like, that's not that big of a deal if you're playing her 12 minutes. If you're playing her in the next game, what was it, 5 minutes the next game after that? But she's still stuffing the stat sheet in a variety of ways. I just think this team is going to be in a long, long haul until Dantas is back. You can't expect Fee to get back, and it's just a question of, can this team find an offensive rhythm or find an identity on defense?
Yeah, I think you nailed it from all angles here. So I do have the free throw stats. Opponents shooting over 82% at the line against Minnesota. Minnesota shooting 76%. So it's not disastrous. 76 is not horrendous, but getting outshot by 6% at the free throw line is gonna have a cumulative effect. And I think where that's coming most from, Kayla's only played 5 games, shooting 92% from the line, so she's not to blame for the free throws at all. But Sill, who can we just, once again appreciate the greatest center to ever play, averaging 17 and 10, over 3 steals plus blocks per game, shooting 63% from the field. I mean, she's just timeless. She just is consistent.
Can I throw out a stat for you about Sill that somebody told me, and I haven't had the time to check it, so maybe I shouldn't throw it out there, but I'm just going to do it because I trust this person who said it to me. Supposedly, Sill hasn't had a game since 2018 where she had 10 plus free throws.
Wow.
Since this last Sparks game.
Wow. That is unbelievable.
If that is true. Now, keep in mind, she was out for most of the bubble season, so really that's one less season. And even if that isn't 100% accurate, I think it's accurate enough to the idea of she's not often getting those types of games, which is mind-blowing considering the way of the manner of her game, right?
And her status, and I think that says a lot if we can just do a quick little diversion here about how the game is called now, which is like, for better or worse, and it's probably for worse, you got to sell the calls. And Sylvia Fowles, one of the reasons she's the GOAT in my mind is like, she just goes out there and plays basketball every night. She is she's not putting on a performance for the refs trying to exaggerate contact anything. It's also part of the nature of her game that she'll just, spot up or turn around from from 14 feet out and knock a jumper in like it's nobody's business. But I think that's a really interesting thing. I'd love to kind of delve deeper into that to try to, identify.
I'm feeding you article ideas. The other thing I want to note when you brought up the free throw stats is just all but 3 of their losses. So I guess like half of their losses were 6 or less points.
Right.
So and that's where it comes into where, yeah, you're shooting 70-some%. It's not horrible. You're not shooting 50%, but you easily probably had 5 to 6 points that you're leaving on the court.
And where I was going with the Sill thing too is, for as exceptional she's been, in all facets, and she's once again, advanced metrics have her as a top 5, top 10 player in the league right now. Just, usual stuff for her. She is shooting 63% from the line. So it's the one area of her game that has not been up to par with where it usually is at. So I think you really nailed it. I don't have much more to add other than the fact that, this is one of those examples of a team that's just biding its time until they get, Nafisa back and Damiris Dantas back, who we were talking about before the pod. Dantas is someone who really unlocks so much flexibility for Cheryl Reeve from a lineup perspective, where you have a player who can play the 5 and knock down threes. You're not really sacrificing anything defensively or on the glass. She can also play the 4 alongside Sill and dominate in bigger lineups. So I think that there have been enough bright spots. Kayla coming back, Jessica Shepard playing pretty well, that you have to not be all doom and gloom with this team. But obviously right now it's just been a really frustrating start to the season, and the stock is definitely down from where it usually is.
Talk to me about your down stock.
Okay, so this is a bit controversial here, and it really is only one reason. Number one, like, there's a lot of positivity in terms of just these teams right now, where the rosters are at. Obviously, we've got, the Liz Cambage situation, which is its own podcast. Not going to touch that one right now. We've got some other things going on. As always, every week, free BG, bring BG home. The most important thing, way more important than the basketball. But with my stock down team this week, it's actually the team that's first in net rating right now, second in offense, second in defense. And it was the team that you had as their stock going up last week, which is the Connecticut Sun. And the only reason that I'm going to be a little gloomy about the Sun this week, see if you see what I did there, is Jasmine Thomas is out for the year. You lose your starting point guard. You lose, one of the, let's say, top 4, top 5. Can we say that comfortably? Point guards in the league, like one of the top tier point guards. She's not.
I mean, she's in the top half of the league. I'm fine with that.
Exactly. She's not elite, but she's solid, really solid player. When you lose your point guard, the one who has been on this team for a long time and who everyone is really comfortable with from a chemistry standpoint, it's only inevitable that the stock is going to dip a little bit. It doesn't mean that this team isn't still a title contender. It doesn't mean they still can't win the title. They absolutely can. We're seeing it right now. They have the best, net rating in the entire league. But I have some serious concerns about the sustainability of what this roster is doing once they start to play, number one, better teams. We're seeing them get 2 in the next 3 days against Las Vegas. That's going to be extremely telling. And then number 2 here, the playoffs are a different game, and you need your backcourt to generate offense. And we've seen this kind of be the downfall of the Sun in the playoffs, especially last year, which was that they have an overwhelming amount of talent, but the vast majority of that talent plays in the front court. And, you have this kind of push and pull between Alyssa Thomas and Jonquel Jones on the offensive end, your 2 best players, where it seems like it's tough to get them going at the same time. And your point guard plays a really big role in that. You have to set everyone up. You have to seek your own offense. Jasmine Thomas is a great perimeter defender. That might be where they miss her most. So I think in some ways, having Natisha Heidemann slide into the starting lineup could give them a little bit of a boost shooting wise. Heidemann's more aggressive offensively, but defensively they're sacrificing a lot. And ultimately, Courtney Williams is going to be shouldering a massive burden in terms of shot creation on the perimeter in the playoffs. And I just don't know how far you can make it with the guard rotation they currently have. So that is why the stock is currently down. It's not down in the sense of how they're playing currently, but looking forward, you have a huge injury. One of your starting five goes out for the season. It's going to be tough to work through, and that's what I'm monitoring going forward.
Look, you have the sun setting. I got the sun rising. I was very close. I had to do it. I was very close to actually having the Sun as one of my or as my up team this week. And honestly, it's purely because of, look, I'm not going to say addition by subtraction here, but realistically, Jasmine Thomas, we look at the history of her playoff career. She gets one game where she goes off, 20 some, maybe 30 points, has a real, and really helps the team win that game, maybe that series. And maybe that's even a stretch. But past that, she has historically been cold in the playoffs. Even before she got injured, I was starting to already question, should Heidemann be stepping in as the starter to add that, dive attack, but yet 3-point threat. She just has a little bit more pep to her step, a little bit more, bounce to her walk or whatever. And I think that's kind of what's missing from this. And I agree with you. The rotation now is what concerns me. Who comes in after Heidemann takes a break, a breather, whatever it is. That's what the question is more for me, because obviously in an ideal world, I would prefer to have Jasmine Thomas coming in off the bench to replace Heidemann versus whoever they're going to end up having to fill that role. So I think, while I hear what you're saying, I think at the end of the day, yes, Heidemann's a little bit of a step down on defense from Jasmine Thomas, but look at who else is on this roster. Look who else is playing with this team. You have that security blanket of Alyssa Thomas, of Jonquel Jones, of Bree Jones. So in my mind, at least, yeah, I still have the same question. Like, at least in my mind, yeah, it sucks that she's injured and I feel horrible for her. And in that sense, and like the Connecticut Sun have been trying to get this starting five together for how many years, and they finally got it. And of course, God had to wag his finger at them in a horrible, horrible way. But I think at the end of the day, like, I'd rather, out of all the players that of their starting five, like, they have their bigs, what I mean? And by that, I mean, they have Bonner, Thomas, and Jonquel. And that's the big three that they wanted, that they viewed as the key to getting them finally that WNBA finals victory. So in my mind, like, I just can't put them as a down team yet. But all respect to you, even though you're wrong. Stockwatch. I'm going first on Stockwatch, so you can't steal my team.
Do it.
Stockwatch Chicago Sky. Not the powerful, high octane start to the season that historically, and I know people are going to go, didn't they start like 2-8 one year? Yeah, but if you pay attention to James Wade since he's become the head coach of Chicago, they've always started like the first 3 games really, really well, gone into a little bit of a lull, and then really pushed off right when you hit like almost the midway point of the season. They just got Clea Copper back, who's now learning how to play with Emma Miesemann. Quigley and Sloot play with Miesemann overseas, or played with Miesemann overseas for years. So there is that vibe together. They know how to flow together. Obviously, Candace Parker doesn't, and is learning how to work that in. Azrae Stevens is playing great. But when you bring back Clea Copper, maybe the most important player on this roster right now, that there's going to be some growth pains, but I'm excited to see where they go from here. It was a tough loss to the Aces the other night or other day. But yeah, I just think if you pay attention to this team, they're going to be going up soon. Otherwise, if they don't start going up soon, yeah, I mean, as Candace Parker was quoted saying, like, they stunk last year during the regular season, and you can't expect them to make another playoff run like that.
Yeah, and I think that's astute analysis, and I think at the same time, to the point you were making, James Wade has been there and done that already, and he understands more than almost anyone in this league that the playoffs are what matter. Peaking at the right time is what matters. Staying healthy is what matters. And he's not going to chase regular season wins at the expense of being fresh and ready for the playoffs. So I would not be concerned at all if I was Chicago. I'd feel great. Thought it was amusing him being a little shady in the post game, when a reporter asked said that the Aces were the best team in the league right now. He said, I'll remember that. The Aces are the best team in the league right now. Let's be clear. But Chicago has done nothing to make me think otherwise, that they're not going to be there at the end of the playoffs. So I can't wait to continue watching them and see how that chemistry develops. Stock watch over on this side. I'm keeping it topical. Who else am I going with? It's the Las Vegas Aces, best team in the league. They're playing the Connecticut Sun tonight, Tuesday night. They're playing the Connecticut Sun on Thursday night. They just beat the Sky on Saturday. So this is what we've been waiting for. It's been exciting watching them, trounce some of the teams in the bottom half of the league. But what we really want to see is how this system is able to stand up against the best of the best, and especially a team like Connecticut with so much talent and so much size in the front court. Can this ultimate small ball lineup with Asia at the 5, Dearica Hamby at the 4, and then Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and Kelsey Plum, are they going to win out against the towers inside for Connecticut? That's what I'm watching for. And as we've been recording this podcast, I got the email from WNBA PR that our players of the week 3, and this just goes right in keeping with this podcast, Asia Wilson for the Aces, Western Conference Player of the Week. That means that the Aces have won all 3 Western Conference Player of the Weeks this season, Asia with 2, Jackie Young with 1. And then the one I was really excited to see, my stock up team, Kelsey Mitchell, Eastern Conference Player of the Week, 23.5 points, 2 steals per game. Love to see it.
I love to see that also. The one thing I will note, though, is I hate that it's still Eastern Western Conference. I just have no idea why they do that, and I think currently fine. We haven't had any egregious ones yet, but and this is a sticky point for me, because I just feel that these awards are the legacy of these players, right? When they retire, we're going to look down their list. Did they set the record for the most player of the weeks, blah, 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 whatever it is. And if we're going to punish players because they're of a conference and we don't even do things conference based anymore, I don't know. Maybe you'd feel differently.
Yeah, it doesn't bug me a ton. I hear what you're saying 100%. I don't think that when it's all said and done, I'm going to be looking back at Sylvia Fowler's career or Candace Parker's career and saying, well, they won 13 Player of the Weeks. That really says it all. I think it's a fun thing in the moment. I think it's an easy way to divide up the league. It doesn't bug me. I totally get what you're saying. Like, we're past the point where conferences really matter at all. And I truly love the playoff format. It's one of the best things about the WNBA is that, the conferences don't matter in the playoffs. But I think for Player of the Week, it doesn't bug me. I like it. And it's fun, if Kelsey Mitchell was going up against, the Aces in the Western Conference, she might not be able to get that Player of the Week. She deserves it. So I'm fine with it.
All right. Well, that's all we got for this episode. We'll be back next week with WNBA Stocks.